Hi everyone, it's James here from Production Expert on my travels once again. This time I've come about 2 hours south of Moscow to the Russian city of Tula, to the Soyuz Microphone factory. And we're going to take you on a journey to turn this brass, aluminium and steel stock material into a beautiful 017 Soyuz microphone. It's an absolutely fascinating place. We're going to see machines that have incredible history. Just the technology and everything that goes into these microphones is just engineering beauty on a fantastic scale. So we're going to go from, say, the stock material right the way through to a finished, polished, tested microphone ready to go out the door here in Russia. So let's start here in the machine room with the bodies and the capsules of the microphones. So the first machine the stock hits is a slow-moving bandsaw. Brass doesn't like being worked fast, so the bandsaw is used to cut the very thick stock material down to size. This takes a little while, but through the magic of television you can see we've now cut almost all the way through, and the technician comes in and just catches the stock before it drops off. Very nicely done. We then move on to the first turning process, and what you can see here is one of the technicians is turning the brass stock to form one of the hemispheres that go on the bottom and top of the microphone. I've never seen one of these kind of rotating tool pieces before. It was really interesting to watch. All the cutting tools are actually made by the guys themselves. These guys are all master machinists and learned their trade in the military workshops of Tula. That's one of the things that the Tula area is known for: ammunition, guns and weapons. Believe it or not, they even let me have a go. Trust me, it's not as easy as it looks. Now this process is quite long-winded. You can't take huge chunks of brass off in one go, and you really don't want to see how long it took me to turn this down to the proper kind of hemisphere shape. So we're going to move on to the next station now, and here one of the technicians is starting to build the capsule rings, securing rings. He cuts a series of channels into the brass stock on the lathe. And each one of these sections is one of the capsule rings. Being an engineering nerd, I can watch this sort of stuff all day. It's beautiful to see these guys work and turning, say, stock material into a thing of absolute beauty. So he pulls the tool away now and stops the lathe and changes the holding chuck to a reaming bit. It increases the speed of the lathe and then bores straight through the middle of the brass to turn these grooves into perfect rings. At this station, a very skilled engineer is drilling the holes into the capsule backplates. The backplate is secured inside a case-hardened steel template. The first hole is drilled and a small pin is inserted to keep the backplate located inside the jig. So that's the 3 main holes drilled. Some lubricant is applied to the drill bit. And holes are drilled in the side of the backplate. Bit more lubricant in the form of fat, and if you're thinking that fat looks an awful lot like Parmesan cheese, you'd be right, it is. So onto the next drill press this time. Some slightly smaller holes around the outside of the capsule backplate. Now the backplate of the capsule is again made of brass, and this case hardened steel template is so hard you can't drill through it using a normal drill bit. So that's how they keep the consistency from one capsule backplate to the next. And once all the holes are drilled, we unscrew the template, remove the pin, and there is our perfect drilled capsule backplate. The next station is the milling machine. Now in this case they're milling the grooves into one of the components that makes up the microphone shock mount. All the machinery the guys at Soyuz are using is all ex-military production spec, so the tolerances involved are incredibly small. And that is particularly important when we move on to the next station. This is the station where they turn down the capsule backplate to its final thickness. Now this particular lathe originally was installed in the Kalashnikov factory. Yes, Kalashnikov as in those who make machine guns. This particular lathe is capable of turning down to a tolerance of 1 or 2 microns. Incredibly accurate, and it gives a beautiful smooth finish to the capsule backplates. At this station, they're powder coating the outer cases for the microphones. The powder coat is applied by a spray gun, and they'll let anyone have a go at this bit, but I'd be surprised if my workmanship passes quality control. Once coated, the microphone parts go into a kiln where they're baked off for an undisclosed amount of time. So you've seen all the major heavy lifting downstairs. We've got our raw stock and turned it into effectively the bare essential bones of the microphone. This room is the main kind of technical assembly where all those components are brought together and a microphone effectively leaves this room.